season, you're going to have to replace your quarterback. Now you're replacing one of your leading receivers. But that's the hard part, Tim.
Well, lucky for them, they do have one receiver still that's pretty good in Ray J. Scott Harbolt. So he, but again, now you can double team him and do some things.
Yep. We'll go ahead and spotlight Galion here. They come in with that record of 7-1, 4-1 in the Mid-Ohio Athletic Conference. You mentioned, Tim, a week ago they gave up their first touchdown in 3 weeks. They shut out Pleasant and Highland in back-to-back weeks back on the 3rd and then the 27th there of September. 42 points and 35 points offensively. We saw that game against Highland. It was just pure dominance, especially defensively against that Highland offense.
Well, that night we had them, they just swarmed to the football. And Highland, if I remember correctly, they did get over 100 yards of offense, but not till late in the game when Galion had a lot of backups in.
Yeah, they went toe-to-toe with Shelby, so they're primed here to have a bye in the playoffs. And we're going to highlight Aiden Schmidt. He's the leader of the offense, leader of the team. 1,500 yards passing, 15 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. Tim.
Well, he came in partway, in the middle of last season, took over for Braxton Prosser, and just did a great job of leading them to win. He's just a winner. He's a leader and a winner. And, as it shows on our OH.REPORT things, he's throwing for over 1,500 yards. He has thrown a few interceptions, because he's a little bit of a wheeler and dealer and gambler. But he's also run. He's a threat when he takes off. He's had a couple long touchdown runs this year. And he's just a great player and a great kid and does a great job. Also does a really good job on defense.
Yep. Keys to victory here for Galion, Tim.
Well, again, I think they got to get off to a great start. The longer Harding remains in the game, the more confidence they're going to play with and the more effort and everything that they will play with. And then, you got to dominate the line of scrimmage, like it says. And that's something that, is not always easy for them, again, because they don't have great size. Their offensive line has average size at best. Defensive line is kind of smallish. So if they can win the line of scrimmage, they're going to probably win this game.
For Harding, led by head coach C.J. Wessler, they come in overall at 3-5, 2-3 in the conference. We talked about it a little bit there in the beginning of the pregame. It's a mixed bag of what may happen with this team. They score 48 points against Pleasant, pretty much the same that Galion had. And then they give up 28 points as well. But then Ontario and Clear Fork, they lose 28-14 and 31-7 respectively. And the thing is, Tim, is you talk about that mixed bag. You got to keep your emotions in check. They've had 8 personal foul penalties in the last 2 weeks, and that's not going to win you football games.
No, because it's just, it's a 15-yard penalty, and it's always a dead ball. So almost always, at least, it's a dead ball penalty. So it just gets you behind the sticks. And, so they're going to have to control that. They got Landon Keller, who's one of the leading rushers, if not the leading rusher in the league this year. And, so they're going to hopefully try to hand the ball off to him, and he can do his thing. And
he's ran the ball over 100 times so far this season, Tim. 118 carries through 8 weeks, and he's been a workhorse for them.
Yeah, and so that's what they need to do. And then if you can get him going like that, then you got a shot at hitting maybe a couple play action passes and hitting a couple home runs. And again, that's why they're a little bit inconsistent offensively.
Yep, you can also hit him out of the backfield. He has 188 receiving yards. So keys here for Harding and the Presidents.
Well, not only to contain the sacks, but to contain just tackles for loss.
Yeah.
It's, because Galion's going to blitz. Galion's going to put pressure on you. Galion is going to try to get you behind the sticks constantly to get you to gamble and to turn you over.
They got to match speed for speed, too, and that's going to be a big part here tonight.
Well, this is one of the teams that can do that. They do have some really good athletes themselves, some guys with some good speed. But, boy, Galion has been, to me, Galion's the fastest team I've seen this year.
Well, we'll see their speed here coming up. We'll take a timeout here on the OH Report and WBCO. Stay tuned. We'll have the kickoff, and that's coming up next here on the Lewis Family McDonald's of Bucyrus and Galion Game of the Week.
For 25 years, the team at Spreng Capital Management has helped you and your family through times of economic uncertainty. This experience and knowledge has helped us to guide you through numerous economic cycles, making us qualified to help you through the economic turmoil of today. When reviewing your own economic plan, let us help guide you along the right path. Call us at 419-563-0084. At Spreng Capital Management, we are here to be your financial partner.
And we're back here on WBCO and the OH Report. Jared Moore and Tim Birie live here from Harding Stadium here in Marion, Ohio for the Galion Tigers and the Marion Harding Presidents. Galion coming in with a record of 7-1 overall, led by head coach Matt Dick, and Harding coming in with a record of 3-5 overall and led by head coach C.J. Wessler. He comes over from a Pleasant team a year ago, Tim, now taking over this Harding program and trying to kind of find his way forward here at Harding. We mentioned those 8 personal foul penalties in the past 2 weeks. They've given up 3 onside kick recoveries in the past 2 weeks. How do you control those things here for this kind of inexperienced team, Tim, that was led by a freshman quarterback?
Yeah, well, you just talk to the kids and say, you know, we got to be alive for those things. Why did they get the onside kicks? You know, was it, you know, the way they lined up? Was it that, you know, they don't practice enough against it with special teams? You know, whatever it might be, but they got to be ready for that. And the personal fouls, you just talk to the kids. You know, you're playing a game that's a collision sport. There's a lot of contact. You're trying to get your kids really psyched and try to get them to play physical and violent and all that kind of stuff. And yet, you know, then you got to control your emotions. So you got to do a little bit of everything. And, you know, the good thing is, though, for Coach Wessler, you know, that he got kids. You know, he had about 70-some kids playing football here or more. And so that's a start. And so I'm sure he'll get this thing going sooner or later. He just, the best thing is, he plans on staying here a while, and they've had a lot of turnover, coaching-wise, the last few years.
All right, they average 18 points per game, and they give up 24. Just a squib kick here this time, and Harding will return it, and it looked like they were maybe setting up a reverse there with Marcus McGarry.
It was going to be hard.
Not sure if that's what was going to happen.
The replay,
it almost looks like it was, but he tried to reverse his field.
But he had, they kicked the ball and almost pinned him on that sideline. And so if they did want to run a reverse, it was going to take a long time to get over to the guy he wanted to hand it to. And, number 30 for Galion, again, they just show great spot. So that was Cale Early, who is, obviously one of those guys that makes a lot of tackles and hard to outrun.
Galion deferred, so they'll receive the second half kickoff, but Harding will start out here on offense. As I mentioned, 18 points per game is what they average. And right off the bat, they're going to throw a screen pass up the middle of the field. It's Juju Glover, and he's hit basically immediately. Just a 2-yard pickup here. And the first one in there was Trey Longwell, that's Cameron Kuhlman along with Dominic Capretta. But Harding's going to hurry up and get their offense set, and they'll run it off the left tackle this time with Maddox Simmers. And he doesn't get very far either, just a yard pickup for him off the left tackle. And Salih in there on the tackle as well. You already mentioned Salih and Capretta, Tim, on the tackles.
Well, they tried to go tempo and go real fast, and Galion was ready for it. Galion got their defense set, and it was only gained of 2 yards.
All right, it'll be Jaden Jordan, the 150-pound sophomore, fakes the handoff, now rolls out to the right, stumbles a little bit, and then they're going to step up. He slips out of a couple of tackles, reverses